Hello friends, how is everybody doing? I have about 30 to 40 video topics lined up, so I'm really excited. Getting ready to get back in the saddle here and talk about some things that I have been sitting with for many years. And I finally fully have the language for and the expression for. So I'm really excited. We're going to start with a series on, which is what I call breaking the spell. So, right, we have social media, we have these algorithmic tools that are used within social media by these tech giants, and I'm sure every single one of us, especially those that are watching my video, have somehow been pulled into some rabbit hole, right? Some rabbit hole that takes you from point A to point Z and may very much, you could say, radicalize you or shift your perspectives to something very different than what you maybe held before. Maybe you had, you didn't know anything about something and now you think you do. And I want to talk about that because it is a wild, wild west out there, and conspiracy theories run rampant and people believe them. And the truth of the matter is that, there's nothing to be ashamed of here. It's just, there's a lot of psychological warfare out there, and it's capitalism, right? It's domination, it's extraction, it's exploitation, it's evil. Right, the evils that exist in this world and how we get pulled off our paths or pulled off track by it. And I myself have been, this is definitely something I've experienced. I've learned how to refine my discernment practice and to pull myself out of spaces that are not in my best interest, that I began to question and I began to eventually explore and find the truth about, right? That is a journey. That is a journey within. That is a journey to gaining more wisdom, right? We can't learn without having experiences, and that is why we are here. So that said, we're here to learn. We're here to grow. We're here to expand. And unfortunately, many of us are stuck. And when we get stuck in these spaces, it keeps us out of our power and it keeps us out of our collective power. It gives us a false sense of ascension, perhaps, if we want to use that word. I hate that word. It gives us a false sense of superiority. And a lot of things, and we're going to begin to be breaking this all down, right, into pieces, because there's a universality in this space of what I want to talk about, and there are common themes and common playbooks to look out for and to watch out for. And again, this is to empower yourself. I fully believe that every single one of us has the capacity to learn and to grow and to move through transformation and to come out the other side, and to break free from that which is limiting not only ourselves but our collective capacity and our collective power to change things. And I think that is the calling that many of us have, right? But we get caught up in fields, energetic fields, or what I may call suppression fields, that again give us some kind of false path where we think we are doing the work for Mother Earth, for the collective, or whatever it may be, but we're really not. We're really being exploited and taken for a ride, so to say. So we're going to talk about that. What that looks like. So let's talk about how spirituality became a tool of control, right? This is something that I felt in my bones for a long time, something I've quietly watched unfold for years, in spaces that, we're told are meant to be liberatory. Ascension is meant to be a liberatory path. It's meant to set us free of that which holds us back, but it's been used as a tool of control. And so when we're being controlled, it's not authentic, and we're not actually embodying our truth, or we don't even have access to it at that point. So this is important, and it is up to each of us individually and then collectively to break free, to liberate ourselves, right? So a lot of these communities may have promised liberation, but somehow it ended up mirroring the very systems that we are trying to escape over and over and over again. And really what this is us looking outside of ourselves. We all need community. We all need connection. But we also need to learn to look within and to dive deeper. And there are solitary moments in this, not in the sense of isolating ourselves, because that is a whole nother story and something we may talk about at some point. But right, in the end, this is about awakening, and still being enslaved, right? And how do we break free from that? And that's the idea here. So a lot of us come to this space of, spirituality or finding our spiritual path because we are seeking something real. We may have been experiencing certain synchronicities or realizations or awakenings within our life that is telling us, we need to look deeper. We need to explore reality for ourselves and the reality we're in. And look at the world we're in. Some things I want to share is that, I don't want to come from a political space, and yet, right, everything is political. And I myself do not necessarily identify with any political path. I've voted both parties. I would identify myself more as an independent, progressive, yes, for sure. But I have my own, if I were to share all of my beliefs with somebody, I'm sure they would label me with something. But for me personally, other than being progressive and wanting change and inclusivity, I don't necessarily identify, definitely do not identify as a Republican or a Democrat. At one time, I did identify as a Republican or a conservative, so I'm sharing that. So I have a lot of knowledge in that area. I grew up in a conservative home. I grew up in a Republican home, and then I lived out in the real world, and I saw how things really were. I moved out of my hometown. I explored reality, and I learned, and I gained wisdom, and I didn't stay in my little bubble. And eventually I began to realize what I was taught was not necessarily true, and that my beliefs or the way I thought about things, experienced things, right? They began to change, and I've definitely voted Democrat, at points, and but I don't consider myself a Democrat, and really none of this matters. It doesn't. But I'm sharing this because this is the space that I come from, and within that regard, I believe that, we all have to come into solidarity. Like, this separation is not serving us. This division is not serving us. This demonizing the other side is not serving us, right? No matter where we are on the spectrum, like, it just doesn't serve us, because the truth of the matter is there are people in power that are working against us. Whether or not we believe that to be true, it is true. It just is. The systems of power and control. And we are being manipulated. We are being exploited. We are being extracted. We are cogs in a system that serve the ultra wealthy. And I'm not even talking about like wealth. I'm talking about like ultra, like evil wealthy, beyond billionaires. Like, ethically, there should be no billionaires. Pay your workers. Give that money, to serve some higher purpose, right? There's just no need to have that kind of money and that kind of power. It's just too much. And we need to recognize this and everything that encompasses first, and stop giving our power away to something external that we think is going to give us that thing in return. It doesn't work like that, and it never will. Ever, ever, ever. No matter what side of the aisle you are on or not. It is about embodying your power, right? And moving out of that mentality, that the hierarchical understanding, the all of it, right? And that is the work. Because we are, everything that we are meant to dismantle has to be dismantled within ourselves before it can be dismantled external. Because we carry all these structures within. We carry all of this within. We carry that psychological reality of whatever system it is that we live in. Okay? And when we come to spirituality, we're looking for something real, right? We want truth. We want healing. We want a sense of belonging. But what happens when that longing, that desire to belong, gets hijacked? Or what happens when that desire for love, soul love, gets hijacked? Or that desire for change gets hijacked by these people who want to dominate and have power and control over you. So when people step into these spaces, right, you often think like, oh, right, spiritual community, like, these people must really care, and they must really have, my best interests at heart. And many of us will go into experiences like this. We just don't see the shadow, right? We don't necessarily go into it thinking that will be there. And yet it exists. And until we learn to explore that, right, part of ourselves within ourselves, right, that within ourselves first, and then of course with others, right, because it exists within ourselves first, and that's often what will, right, so it's all learning. But when we step into these spaces without realizing it, we often are initiated into a whole new hierarchy. So we go from one hierarchy to another, right? It's just dressed in white robes instead of black suits. And that is very prevalent within the New Age community, within many spiritual circles, right? These online spaces. I've seen over the last 10 years, right, these spiritual communities become echo chambers for superiority, division, and subtle forms of control. Very often you go into these spaces wanting to heal, right, from this very innocent, pure space within yourself, this intention, and you end up experiencing more wounding, more harm. And your nervous system, like, that's a lot for your nervous system. Your nervous system needs time to heal, to recover from these types of experiences. So when you're hit all these time with these triggers and, but it's good to be triggered, right? All that bullshit, it's harmful. So the language may sound elevated. I mean, I remember how long I tried trying to conceptualize, well, what is 3D? What is 5D? What is false light? What is true light? Right? What is low vibe, high vibe, right? It sounds like the language that is elevated or awakened in some way, but the pattern is the same. It's a ranking system. It's a performance. It is a performance. So many of this becomes a performance, and we don't even realize that we are performing for, if we want to say the matrix, or we are performing for, because there's matrix and matrix and matrix and rate matrix, right? There's all these different matrices, and right, they're all the same in essence. But that performance, that, like, the field telling you essentially what to do, and it becomes this performance rather than this actual embodied, authentic expression of that which is for you. Right? There's a difference there. And recognizing where you are performing, right, and you are not highly attuned to your reality, your authentic expression, your body, and what your body is telling you is when you're cut off from that, right, and you're up in these higher light realms, and you're not coming into the body, because the body holds immense wisdom, right? We have the body to tell us, well, our gut, our sensation, everything that we feel within, we often cut ourselves off from that. We go back into the head, and then we go back into the belief system, right? Or whatever it is that we're functioning within, that is, or dysfunctioning within, right? And so this is harmful to the human. This is harmful to your spirit. This is harmful to your soul. You are being used. Right? So the performance of purity, the justification for why some people deserve to be here and others don't. The 144,000. I am special. I am above. I am unique. I am better than. It's not enlightenment. It is spiritual eugenics. So what started as a desire to liberate ourselves from oppressive systems, from the matrix, from the system, whatever you want to say, has in many ways recreated them inside of our own psyches, or brought awareness to what already is within our own psyches. These false ascension fields sell the idea that if you're pure enough, clear enough, high vibe enough, or you did this or you did that, you'll ascend, and everyone else, where they're just karmically choosing their fate. It's their choice, right? That's the path they chose. They'll perish. They're NPCs, or what people call non-player characters, or it's very dehumanizing, because what it comes down to is you are being told that they don't matter. And when you take that on, then that is the space that you come from, that other people don't matter, that other people that don't think like you don't matter, and that they are below you, and that they are not as close to God or source as you, or they are not as spiritually enlightened as you, which is not how the true essence of God and spirit works, right? You could be sitting next to the most enlightened person on the planet and you may have no idea, because you'd be sitting there in your superior stance looking out for whatever it may be because of your own insecurity, right? It's a false sense of superiority. It's a false self. It's really just narcissism wrapped up in a white robe, a spiritual robe. So that logic, those beliefs, it is the same logic that is used to justify things like fascism, apartheid. Okay? Think about that. Think about what that means. You are being programmed to justify fascism, evil, oppressive systems, apartheid systems, systems of division where one is better than the other, systems of superiority. It is the same logic that dehumanizes Palestinians. It is the same logic used in white supremacy, in caste systems, and colonizations. It's that some people don't matter. Caste systems. Some people don't matter, others don't. And somehow this showed up in our healing spaces. You could see it during 2020 when people were dismissing people that would die of COVID like it was nothing. Like their lives don't matter, right? Everybody's life matters. Everybody matters. Isn't that what, I don't know, Jesus taught? So, it shows up even in how we parent. Suddenly we're told that our kids are rainbow children, indigo souls, star seeds, right? And while that may feel magical, and there's nothing wrong with, lightly playing with something like this, like, oh, my little star seed, but it can quickly become a trap. It can become another tool for my child is more special, my child is different, my child is better than, another tool for separation. Right? And isn't that what we're all working towards, is unity? Being one, but do you really know what that means and what that requires of you? That true realization, because if you truly experienced it spiritually, what it means to be one, what it means for all of us to be connected, that everything would shift. So you just say it. It's like somebody's just saying it rather than there being actually any root and to the truth of it, because they're not living in that reality where we are all one, if that makes sense, right? Because if your child is special, then the other kids become less than. And now we've introduced a caste system into our parenting, all under the guise of love. We need to break the spell. We need to name that some of these ideologies are not sacred. They are tools of power. They are used to control people, and they embed into your nervous system. We internalize them. We don't just hurt ourselves when we do this. We recreate harm. We become the enforcers of the very systems we swore to dismantle. It's similar to like an MLM, right? You get pulled in, and then they move up, and then you're at the bottom, right? That is not the systems that we are here to create. Those are already here, right? We are here to create new systems that work for everybody. That is what we are here for. And it's something that is going to birth from within you. pattern is subtle. You're invited in with love, with care. And then you're asked to prove your alignment. And then you're taught who's worthy and who's not. And before you know it, you're part of a spiritual apartheid. But there is another way. One rooted in love that doesn't require supremacy. One rooted in truth that doesn't allow for bypass. And one that honors our sacredness without erasing our humanity. And I believe that's what we're here for. I hope this resonates, because breaking the spell does not happen alone. Please share it if it does. It happens together. So if you're ready to reclaim a path of sacred embodied sovereignty, not performance, not purity, but truth, let's walk it together. I hope that you will subscribe, share, like, comment. And until next time, toodaloo.